I went through some of the most bizarre TV shows ever and put them all into an iceberg chart, with the most commonly known ones at the top, and the farther down we go on the iceberg, the more obscure and strange things get. Let's dive in. £1 million in cash was burned to dust by art duo the K Foundation, who withdrew £1 million of their own money in 1994, flew it to the back of an abandoned boathouse in Scotland, and set it all ablaze. Are you wondering why? You should be. The stacks of £50 notes took over an hour to burn, and after the deed was done, the art duo filled a briefcase with the ashes to sell to art exhibitions, but no one wanted it. And those ashes were the only evidence of what they did, because the K Foundation, staying on brand with their self-destructive ways, destroyed all footage of the event, or so they thought. Their cameraman secretly saved the master tapes, which we see here in the BBC documentary, The K Foundation Burn £1 Million. The exact reason why the K Foundation burned the money remains a mystery, even to the artists themselves. Bill and Jimmy screened the footage to audiences, asking them afterwards, is it rock and roll? Some believed it was very rock and roll, some saw it as a waste, and some didn't really care, because not my money, not my problem. 10 years later, Bill and Jimmy said they regret doing it. Jimmy told BBC, every day I wake up and think, oh God, I've burned £1 million and everyone thinks it's wrong. And Bill said, it's a hard one to explain to your kids and it doesn't get any easier. Don't be so hard on yourselves, guys. There's been plenty of $1 million art projects that didn't pan out. You just burned the money and saved everyone the time. A noble act, if you ask me. If you've been on a flight recently that was more turbulent than usual, it may have been piloted by a dog. Dogs Might Fly was a real-life TV show with 12 abandoned dogs handpicked by experts to become the first dogs to ever fly a plane. The show put the dogs through a series of challenges, and the 3 top dogs went to flight school to prove that you can, in fact, teach an old dog a new trick. And they may have had a human co-pilot to get commands from, but they really did the damn thing. So this may be more than a cute television moment and the beginning of a radical shakeup in the evolutionary ladder. And afterwards, all the dogs were adopted. You earned it, pal. In the early 2000s, Geico had a popular commercial series featuring cavemen living in a modern world, with the premise that using Geico's website is so easy a caveman can do it. It was a smash hit, garnering dozens of commercials over the years, an induction into the advertising Walk of Fame, courtside seats at Heat games, and even a fan page where fans of the Cave Crew discussed the growing rumors of a caveman TV show, which was later confirmed in 2007. But controversy surrounded the show before it even aired. The pilot was accused of being racist, as some critics thought the cavemen were being used as a metaphor for African Americans. They remade the pilot with some changes, and Cavemen premiered in October 2007 with a cast that included Nick Kroll in one of his first big TV roles. But viewers and critics bashed it, and ABC bonked Cavemen on top of the head halfway through its 13-episode season. It's now considered one of the worst TV shows ever, and folks argue that making a TV show based on a commercial was a bad idea from the beginning. But I don't know, I'm sure there are commercials this would work for. Like, what if they made a TV show with Flo from Progressive? Oh wait, she was in this too. Everything came full circle when the Cavemen returned to their original gig in Geico ads, even cracking a joke about the failed show in a Super Bowl commercial.
Why not just use real cavemen?
If you're watching this video, the world has ended. At least that was the plan when the Turner Doomsday video was made over 40 years ago. When CNN launched in 1980, its founder, Ted Turner, promised that, barring satellite problems, we won't be signing off until the world ends. We will cover the end of the world live, and we'll play Nearer My God to Thee before we sign off. Crazy that it's the first day of his news channel and he's got Doomsday on the mind, but that's a sign of the times when the threat of nuclear war was imminent. And it had people wondering for decades if Turner actually had something locked and loaded for the apocalypse. The mythical Turner Doomsday video was the stuff of legend, but its existence wasn't confirmed until 2015 when a former CNN intern leaked a copy of it. The low-quality 1-minute video shows a military band performing at CNN's Georgia headquarters. The former intern claimed the video was stored in CNN's archives under the totally inconspicuous heading, Turner Doomsday Video, hold for release till end of the world confirmed. To me, this is one of the coolest instances of lost media being found. And so much time has passed, I wonder if an apocalyptic situation were to arise, would they still use this video? Only one way to find out. This is the most blatantly fake reality show in existence. Food Network's Mystery Diners features Charles Styles and his surveillance team going undercover into restaurants to spy on misbehaving employees and catch them in the act. A disclaimer at the end of episodes reads, "The people and events depicted in this program are real. Certain events may have been reenacted for dramatic purposes." Understatement of the century. In one episode, a seafood restaurant has an issue with lobsters mysteriously vanishing. Turns out one of the waiters is secretly a lobster activist, playing double agent, stealing lobsters out of the tank, running down to the beach, and hucking them back into the sea. Hey, it's called the Food Network, not the Good Network. And they have technology to disable vehicles too.
Disable that delivery vehicle now.
Despite this show being so bad it's almost insulting, Mystery Diners survived for 11 seasons, and that's the biggest mystery of them all. People love to watch people open vaults, but if you have a vault to open, whatever you do, don't disappoint. A valuable life lesson that Geraldo Rivera could have used back in '86 when he hosted a live television special to open the secret vaults of famous mobster Al Capone. The mystery of Al Capone's vaults was the highest rated syndicate special ever, with over 30 million viewers. The 2-hour special was advertised as possibly revealing millions of dollars or other fun things like the bodies of Capone's criminal rivals, all on live television. Months were spent excavating the hotel, which led to cool discoveries like hidden staircases, brothels, escape tunnels, and we're learning all about these mysteries as Rivera and his team are down in the chambers of the hotel, knocking down walls by any means necessary to get inside the vaults. But with every commercial break, Rivera is slowly coming to the realization that nothing of value would be found. When the vault was finally opened, the only things inside were dirt and empty bottles of moonshine. Even TV networks in the 80s knew that sometimes you gotta do it for the clickbait. The Joe Schmo Show was one of the most elaborate pranks in TV history, designed to look like a typical reality show with contestants living together and fighting for a $100,000 grand prize. Except the reality show is totally fake, the players are all actors, including Kristen Wiig, and everybody is in on it, except this guy. Meet Matt Gould, a regular everyman and the target of this scheme, which took a year to plan. Everything was orchestrated to put Matt in bizarre situations. For example, Matt develops a crush on one of the girls, so the writers script a fake love triangle between her, another girl, and the frickin' host. Matt also has a foot phobia that they play on, but when Matt's best friend in the house gets voted out, he's left in tears, questioning if he should leave the game, which put everyone into panic mode. To lighten the mood, producers set up this sumo wrestling competition the next day, but disaster strikes when Matt knocks Kristen Wiig over and she has to be real-life medically evacuated. Matt has now cried twice in the last 24 hours, and this really changed the direction of the show. They originally wanted to make Matt look like a goober, but he was just so likable, they had to switch gears halfway through the season, going from laughing at him to rooting for him. On finale night, everybody breaks the act and reveals to Matt what's actually going on, and he gives the world a legendary reality TV quote.
Raise your hand if you're an actor as well.
What? What is going on?
Matt is so confused he looks high, grabbing balloons off the ground to hug. He's a total trooper though, and in the end, the Joe Schmo Show was a celebration of a guy who's just a good dude. An episode of the harmless Pokemon cartoon caused almost 700 kids to be hospitalized. The incident, known as the Pokemon Shock, happened during the episode Dino Senshi Porygon that aired in December 1997. It features Ash and the gang entering cyberspace to stop Team Rocket, who have stolen a prototype Porygon. While inside, Pikachu's Thunderbolt attack causes an explosion, making the screen flash red and blue at about 12 times per second. The visual effects caused seizures in a significant number of viewers, leading to 685 kids getting sent to the hospital, and the total number who reported symptoms of blurred vision, headaches, dizziness, and nausea was about 12,000 children. But the real victim was Nintendo's stock, which fell 3%, and the Pokemon series went on a 4-month hiatus, with the Porygon episode never airing again. I believe there's an alternate universe somewhere out there where this episode single-handedly topples the Pokemon empire right here in 1997. And it did for forever changed Japanese television. After the incident, a message would play before all episodes of television, warning viewers to not sit too close to the screen and to only watch in a bright room. Porygon became the fall man and was never seen in an episode again. But in 2020, their official Twitter account cracked a joke, tweeting, "Porygon did nothing wrong," which is true because it's Pikachu's attack that technically caused the flashing lights, not Porygon. Still, the tweet was deleted quickly after, so I guess it was still too soon. We've had game shows in taxi cabs, supermarkets, our cell phones, and now we go where no game show has gone before, the delivery room. Labor Games gives couples already in labor the chance to answer trivia questions to win prizes for their child, all before they're even born. The top prize is a $10,000 college scholarship. The concept may sound too absurd to be true, and when the creator of the show tweeted about it, a lot of people thought it was just a joke. It is very real, and although it was only on air for 2 episodes, McGrath stands by it, saying it's a cute show and there are babies. And how many people can say, while my kid was being born, we were in a lightning round for a deluxe baby monitor? The TV series Space Cadets tricked 3 people into believing they were in outer space. Chris James 47 made a great video covering the whole story. A dozen contestants were selected for their particular set of skills of being the most gullible people alive. They were told they would be trained as astronauts, then go on a voyage into space. In reality, they never left England. The cadets boot camp and space school were total lies full of silly exercises purely designed for comedic effect. When it was time for liftoff, the cadets who graduated the sham space school were put in a shuttle simulator. The fake launch was successful and they gaze upon the CGI Earth, totally convinced they're looking down at our planet. The moment of truth came while they prepared to do a spacewalk. The pod door opens and instead of seeing the vastness of outer space looking back at them, they saw a live studio audience. The prank just kind of feels sad now, and the host tries to soften the blow, telling them, "You've actually gone through things that we'll never experience here. You've known what it's like to believe you're looking at the Earth." The cadets weren't the only ones who lost grip of reality though. Some viewers thought there was an even bigger conspiracy going on and believed the entire show was a double hoax, that all the cadets were actors, and that the real target of the biggest prank in television history was the viewers. This show brainwashed its contestants so hard that viewers got secondhand brainwashed. Not many shows have the distinction of being canceled after 1 episode, and even fewer shows can say they were canceled halfway through their first episode. Let's pay our respects to one of these infamous programs, Australia's Naughtiest Home Videos. This was a spin-off of Australia's funniest home video show. After 9 Network piled up lots of home videos over the years that weren't appropriate for the family-friendly show, they made an adults-only one-night special. The first half of the episode went fine until the owner of the network, Kerry Packer, heard about the show while he was having dinner. He turned the TV on to find his network showing clips he found so offensive, he called in and told them to get that shit off the air. After a commercial break, the network said the show wouldn't continue due to technical difficulties and played reruns of Cheers. The next day, Packer fired the host, Doug Mulray, and banned him from the network for life. Years later, ABC took a crack at it and made an adult version of America's Funniest Videos called Videos After Dark, which was more successful than Australia's version by only an episode and a half, getting canceled after its 2-episode premiere night. Stop trying to make naughty home video shows happen. Vivir del Cuento is a popular comedy show in Cuba that first aired in the 90s, and the show's main characters were a group of comedians. Wait,
is this the Obama?
While on a trip to Cuba in 2016, the then president Barack Obama made an appearance as himself on the show and played dominoes with the show's characters. It's surreal to look at, like at first I thought my eyes were failing me. The sitting US president doesn't sit for long though and never actually plays dominoes, but at least we got a new hit song out of it.
Obama, Obama, qué bueno que viniste a conocer La Habana.
There's no show more royally messed up than I Want to Marry Harry, which had women competing for the heart of the Prince Harry. But plot twist, he is not the real Prince Harry. This is a random dude named Matthew who kind of looks like Prince Harry, and the women are led to believe he's the real deal. The show claims the contestants were not explicitly told that the Bachelor is Prince Harry. They were merely led to make that inference on their own, with Matthew's similar resemblance, the royal setting, the lavish dates, the servants, the security security detail. Oh, and also being straight up told by Matthew that he's Prince Harry, and his butler saying, "Sir is indeed His Royal Highness Prince Harry of Wales." So I don't know where they got that idea from. In June 2014, the show was pulled from the air and canceled after 4 episodes. A year later, winning contestant Kimberly Birch shared how she never fully believed that Matthew was Prince Harry, but production tried everything they possibly could to convince them. This included providing the women with a fake therapist who told them they needed to stop doubting if this guy was really Prince Harry. Incredibly, Kimberly and Matthew were still in touch 9 months after filming and said, "We genuinely like each other and have spoken regularly from the moment we stopped filming." It's like a fairy tale. In America, kids were encouraged to drink dairy with the famous Got Milk commercials. In China, kids had the animated series Miracle Star, made by the Chinese state-owned food company Sanjuan Foods, to promote goat milk. Except the whole show was directly plagiarized from Cartoon Network's The Amazing World of Gumball. Exact scenes, character designs, and animation style were all taken from Gumball. There's only a few differences between the shows, one being there's no version of Anais from the Gumball series in Miracle Star because of China's policy restricting families to only 1 child. Another difference is that the mom in Miracle Star had boobs. But what is Cartoon Network to do about this blatant plagiarism? The legality is confusing because copyright law doesn't apply the same in China. So instead of going after Miracle Star through the legal system, they went another route by dunking on them through an episode of Gumball. Season 5, episode 12 features a family who copies everything the Wattersons do and make money online from imitating them. The Copycats is a clear imitation on Miracle Star's imitation of Gumball, and it ends with the copycat family falling to their death. Kid Nation was the show that possibly broke a few child labor laws as we watched 40 children in an Old West ghost town try to create a civilized society without adult supervision. But let me introduce you to another show with a similar concept. Boys and Girls Alone featured kids living without adults in 2 villages, one for the boys and one for the girls. A producer called it Lord of the Flies with no murdering. That's not to say there weren't some concerning moments. A trailer for the series horrified viewers with clips of fistfights, bullying, a boy chopping a chicken's head off, and girls smoking cigarettes.
Have we created a nation of cotton wool kids?
Are you suggesting that older generations, when they were children, governed their own villages? Boys and Girls Alone received tons of backlash for child cruelty, and social services threatened legal action to block the last episodes from airing. And what did we learn? Kids require adult supervision. Nothing we didn't already know. Still, I would have gone on Kid Nation in a heartbeat. My bags were already packed. This comedian got sued and faced jail time for writing a poem that sparked an international political crisis. Jan Böhmermann is the host of a German satire show, and in an episode from 2016, he used an original poem to teach viewers what the line is in Germany between legal criticism of a foreign state leader and illegal abusive criticism of a foreign state leader, which is a punishable offense. In the poem, he went after Turkish President Erdogan, criticizing his human rights record and included claims that the president watched child pornography and had sex with animals. Turkey's deputy prime minister called the poem a serious crime against humanity, demanding criminal prosecution of the comedian. Böhmermann expected this reaction from Turkey. What he wasn't expecting was for German Chancellor Angela Merkel to agree with them. 2 days after the broadcast, the leader of Germany made a statement apologizing to the Turkish president about the poem and announced criminal proceedings of Böhmermann. Then a week later, Merkel backpedaled, calling her criticism of the poem a mistake, but defending her decision to allow criminal proceedings. The case in Germany was dropped in October 2016, and Parliament scrapped the abusive criticism law in 2017. But he still faced lawsuits from the Turkish president, which you can just add to the pile of over 160,000 other investigations Turkey has over insults against their president in the last 10 years. No one is safe, so if you are going to criticize the Turkish president, do not send those criticisms to this email address. The Spaghetti Tree hoax was a 3-minute broadcast on April Fool's Day 1957 that reported on a Swiss family harvesting spaghetti from the fictional spaghetti tree. To be young in the 50s plucking pasta off a tree. Pasta was not an everyday food in 1950s Britain and was considered an exotic delicacy. So when the Spaghetti Tree hoax aired, hundreds of viewers phoned into the BBC to ask how to grow their own spaghetti trees. The BBC told them to place a sprig of spaghetti in a tin of tomato sauce and hope for the best. The spaghetti tree hoax is looked at as one of the biggest pranks that any reputable news establishment has ever pulled. BBC spent their whole existence up until then building a trustful reputation to blow it away on a spaghetti joke. I love it. And you know what else I love? When my internet activity is free from online threats. I say it all the time, which is why I'm super jazzed to have NordVPN as our sponsor for this video. The internet is a big place with lots of cybersecurity threats out there trying to intercept your data, steal your passwords, or infect your device with malware. But with NordVPN, I get online protection with a single click. Then I can surf the web safely, and best of all, freely. Australian Survivor is one of my favorite TV shows, but unfortunately, all of the episodes are blocked here in America. With NordVPN, you can connect to VPNs in like 60 countries, so I just changed my location to Australia and I can get my Survivor fix from across the world and my data is protected the whole time. If you sign up for NordVPN's 2-year plan, you can get a huge discount with my custom link, nordvpn.com/Engelman. Plus, you get 4 months on top of that for free. 4 months is a long time, man. That's how long it took me to make this video. And if you're not sure if NordVPN is for you, you can dip your toes in risk-free with their 30-day money-back guarantee. Go to the link in the description to claim your discount and start browsing with confidence. Imagine everybody being mad at you for not getting eaten by a snake. That's exactly what happened to Paul Rosalie, who made the widely criticized nature doc Eaten Alive that featured Paul traveling into the Amazon rainforest in search of the world's longest anaconda to feed himself to while wearing a custom-built snake-proof suit. He did this to bring attention to the destruction of the Amazon, but animal rights groups condemned the show for animal cruelty. The doc premiered to over 4 million viewers, but anyone hoping to see somebody get eaten alive was left unsatisfied. Most of the program was spent hunting for the anaconda, but the search left them at a dead end and they made do with an already captive snake. Paul suits up, covers himself in pig's blood, even though green anacondas apparently don't eat pigs, and force feeds himself to the snake. The anaconda goes at it for a while and gets their mouth around Paul's head, but an hour into the meal, Paul's arm was about to break and he taps out. So he wasn't eaten alive, he didn't find the snake he was looking for, animal rights activists were mad at him for trying to be swallowed by an anaconda, and viewers were mad at him for not actually doing it. This whole time, Paul thought he'd be eaten alive by a snake, he would ultimately be eaten alive by people. This game show was actual torture. Shattered challenged 10 people to go without sleep for 7 days while they endured daily competitions for a grand prize of £100,000. But anytime someone closed their eyes for over 10 seconds, money was deducted from the prize fund. As far as game shows go, this easily sounds like the worst to be on. It doesn't take long for them to start going crazy. One believed he was the Prime Minister of Australia.
Right, well, I'm the Prime Minister of Australia, so...
2 of them were convinced their clothes had been stolen. One contestant, Claire, told made-up stories of when she arm wrestled Irish boxer Joey Ruin. And on day 6, production convinced several of them that they could read minds. But Claire was playing on a different level. She somehow maintained lucidity for most of the experiment through creative means like giving herself foot cramps to keep awake. She made it to the final challenge, a sleep-off, on the last day when the contestants were finally sent to bed and the last one to fall asleep won the whole thing. Claire was able to stay awake in that cozy bed for 2 whole hours after the others zonked out. She endured 178 hours of sleep deprivation and barely batted an eye. Maybe she really did arm wrestle that Irish boxer. Welcome to Superstar USA, the only reality show where you want to be the first eliminated. This was American Idol's evil twin, a malicious competition in search of the worst singer in America.
Celebrate good times, come on.
Like a virgin. Hey!
Oh, Cadillac, blackjack, baby, meet me out back, we're gonna boogie.
I loved it. You've got a great voice.
The contestants had no idea and were eliminated in order of best singer to worst singer. It's tough watching a soft-spoken guy like Mario here, who makes it to the finale and is so nervous he's hyperventilating. The other finalist, Jamie, is not a good singer, but she's also not the worst singer I've ever heard. And I kept thinking how it was filmed with a live audience and none of them wanted to be a whistleblower. The show creator was actually worried about that though, so he basically told the crowd that the singers were all terminally ill Make-A-Wish patients. When they announced the winner is Jamie, Mario is devastated and just walks off the stage. Buddy, just wait, it gets worse. The truth is finally revealed to Jamie, who handles it well. The show creator said, first her reaction is bewilderment, then disappointment, then anger, then acceptance, then inspiration. I guarantee we're going to be selling some records here. I think he's the real fool for that one. Superstar USA say will always be remembered for its stunning lack of empathy. And I'm just glad these kind of shows aren't really around anymore. But I do live in fear that they are still around and that I'm a contestant. Who wants to marry a multimillionaire? That was the question in February 2000 when Fox aired Who Wants to Marry a Multimillionaire. 50 women compete to be the bride of an unknown wealthy man they've only seen in silhouette, gazing down on them from a god POV. It's a weird vibe from the beginning, and when the field is cut down to the final 5, they're dressed in wedding gowns. The millionaire is finally revealed to be this guy, Rick Rockwell, and the gals look psyched. Then he just picks his winner like he's grocery shopping. The lucky lady is Darva Conger, who is totally not disassociating right now. They get married right then and there, and the fun was just beginning. After the show, Rickwell's millionaire status was questioned when images of his home were leaked. Apparently, having a broken toilet in your backyard isn't a sign of wealth. More questions poured in. Rockwell had claimed to be a motivational speaker, but the companies he had supposedly spoken for said they've never hired him. Then it was discovered that one of Rockwell's ex-girlfriends filed a restraining order against him for domestic violence. And this didn't show up in the background check Fox ran on him before the show, because turns out Rockwell was not his real name. He's not really a millionaire, not really a motivational speaker, not really a good guy, not really Rick Rockwell. His new bride expressed regret for going on the show and said, "In my heart, I'm not married to him." She later sold the engagement ring in an auction and appeared on an episode of Celebrity Boxing. Rick Rock would go on to do a stand-up tour and appear in several aviation computer-based training CD-ROM courses. Rock on, Rick. I found it, everybody. The weirdest game show ever made. Al Murray's Compete for the Meat, a British game show where instead of the winner getting a cash prize, they get a frozen chicken. With that sort of prize, what are the games like? What am I looking at right now? Al Murray is a comedian whose pub landlord character has been around since the 90s, but his meat-based game show was deemed undercooked and only ran 8 episodes, with each featuring a few UK celebrities. This guy's a hypnotist. That's cool. What? The hypnotist Paul McKenna is daddy. The greatest sport event in Sweden ever was, without a doubt, the 1958 World Cup. The TV documentary Conspiracy 58 is about the people who were there, but most of all, about the people who claim that it never took place at all. Yes, the 1958 FIFA World Cup, in which Brazil, led by a 17-year-old Pele, beat Sweden to claim their first title. That was all supposedly completely faked by the US to test TV's capacity to influence people. The film presents hard evidence, like the players' shadows on the field, which were angled in a way that's not possible in Sweden given the position of the sun at the time. And how intriguing that the buildings in the background of the stadium don't exist in Sweden, but in Los Angeles. One interviewee in the film states, "No reliable witnesses exist to prove that the World Cup was really played." It's a pretty damning theory that makes you question how something so historically significant could be totally made up, until you see at the end of the documentary that everything in it is completely made up. There is no conspiracy theory about the World Cup never happening. The director made all of it up to show how historical revisionism works and the importance of source criticism when getting information, or in modern terms, doing your own research. It's crazy to watch this real footage under the context that it's fake and feel your brain delegitimize what you're seeing. And despite being revealed as a hoax at the end, people still believed it. 20 years later, you can find conspiracy theorists discussing the fake conspiracy theory online, and a lot of the logical fallacies presented in the movie are used to support conspiracy theories today. You can trust me on this. I'm a very reliable source who is totally a real person and not an AI-generated YouTuber. There's something special about late night television when you're a kid, waking up in the middle of the night to the glow of infomercials. In Germany, it's even more magical, because once all the kids' shows are done for the night, you're greeted by a depressed loaf of bread. Meet Bernd das Brot, a piece of toast who is stuck in a TV show and hates his life. Loops of Bernd play all night with catchphrases like, "I would like to leave this show," "My life is hell," and "Mist," which translates to shit. Something about his fatalistic personality resonated with everyone. He's the type of character character children can laugh at and adults can identify with. Burned unintentionally became a starch superstar and even had his own video game. And I wish you could have been in the room with me when I saw that on Burn's wiki page, there's a subheader for kidnapping. In 2009, listen to this sentence, a statue of the beloved loaf of bread was stolen by a group of activists who were squatting in an abandoned factory that once produced gas chambers used in concentration camps. Burn's gluten groupies set up an online petition begging for Burn's freedom, but I don't know, what if it wasn't a kidnapping? What if it was a rescue mission? Burned was miserable before, and maybe now he's having the time of his life out there. But a few weeks later, 5 kids found Burned abandoned in the basement of another building. He was carried out by police officers and returned to his original location. To this day, he is still stuck in his nighttime TV hell loop. We'll see you in our dreams, Burned. This TV show predicted the future in the worst way possible. Legends of Chamberlain Heights was an animated sitcom on Comedy Central. In 2016, an episode titled End of Days aired with the characters trying to survive the apocalypse. In one scene, the show depicts NBA star Kobe Bryant crawling out of a crashed helicopter before it explodes. 4 years later, the real Kobe Bryant was killed in a helicopter crash with 9 people aboard. The episode was removed from the Comedy Central website, and the creators of the show released a statement on Twitter saying, "Out of respect for Kobe and his family, we have removed the clip of him and ask that you please don't share it. RIP Kobe and Gigi Bryant and everyone else who died in the helicopter crash today." You can find some real hidden gems on public access television. Most are lost in time, but this brilliant work of art has had a renaissance lately, starting with a tweet. One time in about 2003, I was watching public access in Denton, Texas, and a show came on called The Price Master. Believe me when I tell you, I think about this show an incredible amount. It's your run-of-the-mill yard sale going on, with regular townsfolk perusing for bargains. But if shoppers want to buy anything, they'll have to run it by the Price Master.
Price Master? How much for the bronze crucifix?
This continues for 30 minutes, and it only gets funnier. It's clear the garage sale vendor had no intention on selling anything, but what exactly is going on here? The backstory is that this was a performance art piece by a group called Good Bad Art Collective in front of the Fast House where a few of the group members lived. I instantly became a fan of the Price Master and his message on capitalism, so I went looking for some merch and I found an online store that sells Price Master trucker hats for $1,300 a piece, which all things considered is a fair price. Guinness World Records called this the most extreme game show. The Japanese game show Zagamon was made because its creator said he didn't think the younger generations have the same guts as older generations and wanted to put college kids to the test. 600 university students auditioned for the show by holding a block of ice with their bare feet, and the last 30 to remain became the official cast and would face even more strenuous challenges that are cruel in the simplest ways. Competitions like who can last the longest being dragged over a gravel pit, or getting flown to the deserts of Egypt to have a magnifying glass pointed on their skin, or drinking beer without being allowed to break the seal. Production members weren't safe either. The show creator said he would test out the games on new employees. Live your brand, I guess. Its reputation as the most extreme game show is interesting because nobody ever got seriously injured, and most of the interviewed contestants seemed like they had a good time. This public access series was described as like a show put together by patients in a mental hospital. Unwind with the Sweeties first broadcast in 1991 with 2 people mostly just hanging around at a table reading and singing together, and they're also dressed like sleep paralysis demons. Although the show lasted over a decade, there's only a few clips available online today, and their unsettling aura has garnered a cult following itching for more information about the Sweeties. All we have at the moment is that they're a married couple named Gus and Emma Schlishke, and they have a blog which at one point had a post that contained a graphic image of a mutilated body. And you know, I must say this did not help me unwind. This is like a live stream into our collective nightmares. Poppy the Performer was a series produced for a Japanese kids station by a guy who didn't know it was a kids station and had never made CG animation before. Poppy is an apprentice clown, and his assistant is a wolf that wears an emotive face mask. Each episode they try different circus acts, and things always have a way of going wrong, with characters being impaled, electrocuted, stabbed, cut in half, and set on fire, just to name a few. I expected to read that parents were furious when it first aired, but the director says in a Vice interview that the kids station never received any complaints. The only thing the station was concerned about was Poppy's 3 fingers, which they were worried people would consider a disability. So the director made an episode, Knife Game, to show that Poppy's 3 fingers were really 5. But that episode received complaints because kids were imitating the knife game at home. With these low-budget characters set in a cyber wasteland while these horrific things happen to them, it feels like an inescapable level of hell. But there's a wholesome side to Poppy. Its creators are a husband and wife team who produced the show with a budget of only 100,000 yen a month. The series became popular online, and the kids station asked the director back for another season, but he declined because he felt he had done everything he set out to do with Poppy. He made a low-budget nightmare with his wife to traumatize kids, then sailed into the cyber desert sunset. What a couple of legends. How about this for a TV show name? Honey, We're Killing the Kids. In this show, parents learn how they may be putting their children at risk for future health problems because of their poor parenting. At least the context is more of an exclamation of panic and not premeditated murder. The show analyzes the children's eating habits and physical activity, and the producers strike fear into the parents by showing them computer-generated time-lapse photos predicting what their kids will look like if things don't change. The photos are straight up ridiculous. The kids are shown to grow up to be bald or have bad eyesight, and they attest these things to bad parenting, or in one example, a girl's lack of friends. She's not going to become a lizard just because she's an introvert. The show has been criticized for dismissing socioeconomic factors that could contribute to poor parenting, and for not providing support to these families beyond the 4-week filming period. And all of it is for the sake of the kids, but is there any accounting for the potential negative impact of putting them on a show like this? It had 2 seasons, and let's ask ourselves, was it renewed because it helped the children, or because it helped the network make money? Now forget the kids, let me get one of those CGI lizard pics. This was deemed the most dangerous television program in the world. Alternative 3 was broadcast just once in the UK in 1977, claiming to have uncovered the disappearance of several scientists, which quickly unravels into a full-blown conspiracy about a secret government mission that is shipping off the world's best and brightest minds to Mars to colonize the Red Planet once Earth becomes uninhabitable due to climate change. All of this, of course, is completely fake. The film was a prank that was supposed to be aired on April Fool's Day, but it was delayed until June. The broadcasting delay, paired with the realistic documentary style, the main presenter being a well-known newscaster, and the use of real moments in history, all led people to believe that scientists were really being kidnapped and sent to Mars. Within minutes of the program ending, the network was flooded with calls demanding more information. In response to all the hoopla, a network spokesperson said, "We felt viewers would be fairly sophisticated about it. Callers were told the program was a hoax, but many people still believed it was real, and some still believe it's real to this day."
A sci-fi movie called Alternative 3, kidnapping people and making them colonize the moon and Mars. Funny, huh? Except it's absolutely true.
It's So Funny is a North Korean comedy show, and contrary to the name, it's not very funny at all. The show's purpose is supposedly to improve troop morale, and is usually just a man and woman in military uniforms singing, dancing, and talking about beans. These types of shows have been on since North Korea started state programming in the 70s, making It's So Funny a staple of North Korean TV and one of the longest running television comedies in the world. A Korean actor who defected from the North has said the performers on It's So Funny are actually really talented, but everything they do and say is controlled by propaganda experts and government censors. The show is delivering the same material over and over again, he said. They are still talking about beans. If we're talking about TV shows that should not exist, this one may be the most improbable. In 1938, BBC's TV signal could only reach around 30 miles from the station, but one day, due to unusual atmospheric conditions caused by sunspots, BBC's signal bounced off the ionosphere, causing a few minutes of British television to be picked up 3,000 miles across the pond in New York. I'm not gonna act like I understand how that works. Back then, there was no way to record live broadcasts directly, but somebody somebody in New York captured this rare technological fluke on 16mm film with a camera set up in front of a TV screen. It's tough to see what's going on, but the distorted footage shows BBC anchors, then an unknown period piece, and then another clip that folks have matched to the cartoon Mother Goose melodies. Fast forward to the 1990s, rumors of a recording existing in America have circulated for years, but no one has ever got to the bottom of them, said researcher Andrew Emerson. He spent 5 years tracking down the recording when a staff member of a New York TV station said they had the footage but didn't know who recorded it, and that still remains a mystery to this day. Emerson believes this is the only surviving example of pre-war live British television, and it only exists because of freak atmospheric conditions and the enthusiasm of 2 TV buffs. A lot of people consider the cruelest TV game show ever to be Susuna Denpa Shonen for their treatment of their contestant Nasubi. The show featured unknown comedians participating in extreme challenges to become famous, but the controversial torture-themed show was shut down after a few years by the Japanese government. It was revived as a web series in 2009, with their first challenger being Hamatsu Tomoaki. He was stripped of his clothes and put in an empty room with no food and no communication with the outside world. In order to leave the room, he had to win $10,000 worth of prizes through mail-in sweepstakes. Any food, clothes, or comfort would only come to him through sweepstakes winnings as well. And although he knew he was being filmed, he wasn't told he was being live streamed the entire time, with millions of people watching his every move. He became known as Nasubi, or eggplant, for the digitally imposed eggplant that was used to cover his genitals on the live stream. Nasubi would go weeks without winning anything, and when he would win essentials like a bag of rice, he'd weep tears of joy, only to realize he had nothing to cook the rice with. Nasubi was trapped in this room alone for an entire year and quite literally went insane. If you're interested in learning more about this show, there's a couple videos I'll link in the description that do a great job covering the story. Meet the star of Denmark's new kids show, John Dealerman, a middle-aged man in striped pajamas who has a very long penis. John uses his long member to do all kinds of things, like tame lions, perform circus acts, and save a group of drowning children by wielding his peen as a helicopter. Well, who thought this was a good idea? Apparently, a child psychologist who helped develop the show in order to make children's content that dares to tackle embarrassing and funny topics and encourage curiosity about human bodies. The intentions may be good, but John Dealerman has also been criticized as pandering to pedophiles and making light of sexual violence. Still, the show is a bit of a hit in Denmark. Let's all just hope this one doesn't get a live action treatment. This game show was basically trying to kill its contestants. The Chamber aired on Fox in 2002 and had contestants answering questions while strapped inside a literal torture chamber that subjected them to temperatures as hot as 150 degrees Fahrenheit or as cold as -20. They were deprived of oxygen, given electrical shocks, and put under simulated earthquake conditions up to 9.0 on the Richter scale. The show creator said, "I want to hear if they're in pain or suffering." And one Fox executive believed the show was produced to lead viewers to wonder if Fox might actually kill someone on television. When the original host saw the Chamber in action for the first time, he walked off the set in disgust and quit the show. The Chamber found a new host, filmed 6 episodes, and in this very small sample size, had several accidents. One contestant got trapped inside the chamber and production wasn't able to get them out or turn off the heating effects for a moment, but they were eventually freed without injury. Another contestant, though, was hospitalized afterwards for hypothermia, sued the network, and won $100,000 in court. Fox's gamble on exploiting human suffering for entertainment was all for naught, and the Chamber was canceled after only 3 episodes. Why would anyone want to live in a neighborhood full of bigots, racists, and homophobes? Ask the contestants of the highly controversial unaired reality show, Welcome to the Neighborhood, that had 7 families of various ethnicities, races, and religions competing for a house in a suburban community. To win the house, the families were pitted against each other in challenges and judged by 3 conservative white families that lived in the neighborhood. One judge openly claiming that he would not tolerate a homosexual. As news about the show spread, it was slammed from all sides. 1, for its normalization of intolerance, 2, because of its violation of the Fair Housing Act, and 3, because of fear from conservatives that they would come off looking biased. The producers say the goal was to see if a diverse family could be accepted into a white, conservative, upper-class Christian neighborhood. But why? Why is the approval of conservative white families necessary? ABC dropped the series before it aired due to the sensitivity of the subject matter. The judges did eventually award the house to the gay couple, which led one of the neighbors to put his house up for sale, directly citing the show and the gay couple moving in as the reasons why. Shocking. "I want my face back" is a sentence that should not exist, but we can thank the Swan reality series for that, with each episode following two self-proclaimed ugly ducklings as they undergo an extreme physical makeover over the course of 3 months. The show introduces the contestants with their friends and family tearing them and their appearance to shreds. Then these doctors huddle together at a round table, acting like she's on the verge of death. They keep saying, "We have to do this and that." You don't have to do anything. There's nothing wrong with plastic surgery, but this show portrayed it as a quick fix for self-esteem issues and relationship trouble. Plus, the women had very little say over their transformations, and for the entire 3 months, they weren't allowed to see themselves in a mirror. So when it was time for the big reveal of their new appearances, it ended up being traumatic for many of them. One woman said she went on the show hoping for just a tummy tuck, but ended up receiving more procedures than any other contestants. When seeing herself for the first time, she stayed calm in front of the camera, then went backstage and shouted at the producers, "I want my face back." As of 2018, she said she suffers from depression and body dysmorphia and can hardly leave her house. The Swan put their contestants through all of these things under the guise that it would fix their marriages too. Turns out almost all of the former Swans are now divorced. Producers of The Swan have defended the series, and there's been several plans over the years to revive the show. Stop doing that. As always, let me give a warning that in this final tier, there are several things that may be triggering. If you'd like to avoid hearing about the things you see on screen, now would be a good time to change to a different video. Thank you for watching up to this point. This was the talk show from hell. If you lived in Tucson, Arizona in the 90s and tuned into Channel 49, you'd normally see Christian programming. But on one fateful night during its family hour, the devil himself was unleashed on the public access TV station when it aired The Great Satan at Large. Pure madness came on the airwaves. Calls for violence against minorities and women, clips of Hitler, underage strippers, masturbating jesters, and city officials said there's nothing they could do to stop it because public access television isn't subject to FCC regulations. There were lots of questions beyond how is this legal, starting with who is this guy? Satan by night, Temple University graduate by day, and self-proclaimed greatest pinball player of all time, Lou Perfidio was described by folks as a raging alcoholic who drank so much that in his 20s he had the body of a 60-year-old. Despite being perpetually hammered, Lou had a blog aptly titled "I Love Misery," and if he wanted misery, he got it. His short bout in public access television eventually led to him facing obscenity charges and the possibility of 40 years in prison. He fled Arizona and ran from the feds until 2006 when he contracted a deadly flesh-eating bacteria which led to his death. This is one of the biggest controversies in Brazilian journalism in the 90s. Aqui Agora was a news program known for its fast-moving news team who would get to events as they happened. This style led to many accusations of sensationalism and exploitation, like when they broadcasted images of a 16-year-old girl throwing herself off a building to her death. One morning around 11 a.m., a girl named Danielle climbed to the 7th floor of a building in downtown Sao Paulo when the doorman called the fire department after seeing her sitting on the edge of the building. The program's journalists were tuned into the police radio frequency and made it to the building before the girl jumped, capturing the tragedy on camera and airing the images later that evening on their newscast, while falsely accusing the girl of being involved with drugs and saying she was beaten by her parents. Although Danielle didn't leave any notes that would give clarity on the situation, a friend of hers said she believed the cause of her suicide was an unrequited love for an older boy. The ratings for Aqui Agora increased by over 33% during the 10 minutes of coverage, with over 800,000 households tuning in. The network's director of journalism defended it, saying that it only would have been messed up if they sensationalized Danielle's death by replaying the clips in slow motion. Danielle's parents sued the TV station and received $1 million Brazilian real in compensation for moral damages, which is a little less than $200,000 US. Darren Brown plays Russian roulette live. Darren Brown is a mentalist known for his TV and stage shows on mind control and psychological illusions. His first special was arguably his most controversial when he performed Russian roulette with a loaded gun live on TV. Most of the program followed his thorough selection of who will load the bullet into one of the 6 chambers of a revolver and be the only person in the room when Brown fires it at his own head. He picks James as his assistant, who loads the bullet into a chamber of of the gun out of Darren's sight. Darren sits at a table with the loaded gun and aims it at his temple. He pulls the trigger a total of 5 times, 3 of them at his head, and with the last shot he aims it at a wall of sandbags and the bullet is finally shot. Darren survived and was unharmed, but the special was condemned by many who worried about copycat acts. The fact that we tuned into Channel 4 in case it went wrong disturbs me a little, but it was compelling television, said the London Evening Standard. And some doubt if the roulette game was real, which Brown doesn't mind, saying, as a magic-related performer, to have that even be asked, was it real, was it not real, that lifts it to a level that I'm very comfortable with. What's left is the fact that it was a terrific piece of television. This is the most objected to episode in British television history. Brass Eye was a parody news program that ran in 1997. 4 years later, a special one-off episode aired titled Peedmageddon, which spoofed Crime Watch programs and covered the topic of pedophilia and the media's knee-jerk reaction to the subject. The Minister of Child Protection called the special unspeakably sick. The most well-known segment is about a convicted pedophile who was launched into space to keep him away from kids, only for the scientists to realize after liftoff that an 8-year-old boy had been placed on board the spaceship too by accident.
This is the one thing we didn't want to happen.
What confused folks about Peedmageddon was that it wasn't a comedy about pedophilia, but the way pedophilia is presented in the media, and that the way the subject is covered could do more harm than good. I think this photo captures the message perfectly. The Daily Star newspaper printed their outrage about the Brass Eye episode right next to an article about a 15-year-old's breasts. You can put basically anything on public access television, and that was put to the test when Fun with Roadkill Handbook aired on Fort Worth's public access TV station in 1997. This sketch features dead animals with a voiceover that's advertising a fake handbook on what to do with roadkill. To name some of the dreadfulness, there's close-ups of animal guts, carcasses getting run over, a dead house cat being slid across asphalt with a stick. It's hard to believe so many depraved moments could be stuffed into a 50-second video. According to the description, for the record, all of the animals featured in the piece were already dead. We are guilty of exploiting their corpses, but not once did we ever kill any of the animals ourselves. I have to admit that the piece hasn't gone over as well as I thought it would. When we debuted it 10 years ago, some people said it was the funniest thing we had ever done. Can't win them all, I suppose. Ghostwatch aired on Halloween night 1992 and presented itself as a live, on-air paranormal investigation of a family tormented by an evil spirit. This program pulled out all the stops to appear 100% authentic, and it was so convincing it led to over 30,000 panicked viewers calling in. The BBC had a pre-recorded message set up on their phone line to inform callers that the program was fake, but so many people called in that the line crashed, preventing the message from playing. During the episode, the family living on the fictional Fox Hill Drive share with the production team their paranormal experiences with a demonic entity they've named Pipes. Although when the team investigates the home, no evidence pops up, until we cut back to the studio and their call center claims that viewers have been reporting they saw a mysterious figure lurking in the corner of the kid's bedroom.
When you showed the real footage of that haunted bedroom, well, I know it was dark, but I was sure I could see a figure standing behind against the wall just by the curtain.
This is around the time I had to start covering my eyes, cause your boy's a total wuss. I knew this was fictional and it still scared the absolute crap out of me. I can't imagine how freaked I'd be if I believed it was real. And people were livid, saying the show betrayed the trust the audience has within the BBC. Later, a report in the British Medical Journal discussed 2 cases of children who had developed PTSD due to Ghostwatch, the first reported cases of PTSD caused by a TV program. Most upsetting of all, one 18-year-old boy with a learning disability who watched the show took his own life 5 days later, leaving behind a note for his family saying, "If there are ghosts, I will be with you always as a ghost." Ghostwatch has never aired again, and the BBC disowned the program for decades, but you can find the full special on the Internet Archives, and there's a documentary covering the full story called Ghostwatch Behind the Curtains. 25 patients in need of a kidney transplant compete for the organs of a terminally ill woman. The Great Donor Show was deemed the most unethical television show ever, and I promise you it does not go the way you think. I originally had it as just another entry in this iceberg, but I really felt the whole story was worth its own video, so I went ahead and made one for you. I don't want to spoil anything in this iceberg, I'm just going to direct you to the video about it here, and while you consider clicking that, I just want to say thank you for watching, and if you liked this, I hope you subscribe, and thank you to my YouTube members for helping fund this channel. I'll see you in the other video. Let's do this again sometime.